I'm Al Thomas. I'm with Eilers and Krejcik Gaming. We're a boutique research firm that covers both real money casino and social casino. We provide a lot of analysis and reports to the industry. I have a great panel today to share some information with us. They're probably the most educated, experienced, and talented panel that I've had a chance. Well, hang on. That's my next panel. This panel is also a good panel. No, we've got some guys here who kind of go beyond experience and start to get into the legendary status of casino gaming, and people have experience both in real money and in social casino. So I'm going to go ahead and have everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll get started. So let's start with you.
Jim Jackson, President, CEO, all the above of everything and do anything at the Bluhare Studios. As I mentioned, we're sort of the epitome of the small shop independent game developer. We've developed games in both the real money and the social casino space. Been doing this now for 4 years. Most of my career was spent on the real money side, about 30 years. So did that for quite a while before I went over to the dark side or the light side, depending on your perspective, I suppose.
I'm Shridhar Joshi. I'm CEO of 2x2 Gaming. Similar to Bluhare, we've been around for more than 4 years, and also primary experience from real money gaming. 2x2, we make games for real money in the land-based casinos, as well as the real money online casino, and as well as social casino. So we kind of go across all of the gaming type of games we make. And prior to that, spent more than 20 years with one of the big real money gaming companies. So.
Kent Young, I'm the president founder of Spin Games LLC. We're a content and technology company. We develop content for both real money and B2B social. We operate in New Jersey with most of the operators over there. We utilise HTML5 tech. We've got a remote gaming server that services both real money gaming and social, called The Rock. But yeah, I've been in the business about 27 years. I know I don't look it, but yeah, I worked with a few of the larger manufacturers also on the land-based side.
I'm Yair Panet. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wizits. We're a social casino studio out of Tel Aviv. We're 11 employees. We have 3 apps on the market: Slotogram, Win Vegas, and Fashion TV Games. I've been around in the real money side of things about 10 or 11 years, and Wizits has been founded 4 years ago.
All right, so I guess one of the obvious things to ask is, what's great about being a small shop? I mean, most of you guys have been with bigger companies to begin with, but what's great about being a small shop? And I know, Yair, I'm going to start with you because you gave a talk in Amsterdam that talked about your shop.
So previously I was the head of poker for Playtech, which is one of the largest real money gaming software providers. And product in a large company is of course very different than in a startup. And what I felt back 4 years ago, and I still have the same feeling today, is that while the space of social casino is quite saturated, there is not nearly enough innovation going on, and the big companies of course have these amazing businesses built, but they're built in a very slow evolutionary cycle in terms of product. And what's great about being a startup is that if you have the right framework for testing your innovation, you can actually have a much faster evolving product, and that way kind of build yourself into the market through niches that someone else might, or the big companies might not be able to actually find before you do.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's that analogy: small ship, big ship, or small boat, big ship. It takes a big ship a long time to manoeuvre or change direction. Where being a small organisation, you have the ability to be fast, nimble, agile. I think I look at our company, and we were able to develop that RGS technology that I mentioned earlier in a matter of months. In some of the companies that I worked for before, it would have been a matter of years to develop that same type of technology, put it through the regulatory process to get it approved, etc. So I think for us, we really pride ourselves on being quick, on being innovative, and being able to capture opportunities that some of the larger players in our space, both on the real money side and on the social side, they're just sort of fat. So it's a lot more difficult for them to take advantage of opportunities where we can.
To build on what Kent and Yair said, the one big thing is what happens in a big company is once you are a $1 billion company, an idea, for them to take any idea seriously has to be like a $100 million idea. So you come out with a $5 million idea or a $10 million idea, it's too hard to get a company motivated to take on something like that. But the reality is most of the ideas that even big ideas like Facebook or Google did not start as a $1 billion idea. They start as a $5 million idea. You just don't know which of these ideas is going to turn into a $1 billion idea. The problem with the big companies is because they have their quarterly earnings to meet and they have their particular shareholder expectations, it's too hard to get interested in saying, well, this idea seems like a nice idea. We don't know if it is going to be a $1 billion idea or $10 million idea. And then it's too hard to get motivated. Whereas an advantage of a smaller company like this, that a $5 million or $10 million idea is a very interesting idea and very valuable idea for a small company. And then you can start executing on it. And that's why if you look at it, most of the big innovations that we are seeing are the companies who are talking at this conference also, they all started as pretty small companies. They didn't start as $2 billion company. They just ended up being a big company afterward. And I think that's the big appeal of forming a social company, a small company.
Well, I think these guys pretty much said it all already, but I think a lot of it is true. We've all worked for mega giant corporations, and they have meetings to schedule their next meeting. One of my customers came to me with an idea, just a very rough idea for a slot game. Sat around with our guys. We turned around basically a very quick summary of a game idea. They approved it. We started working on the game. We delivered it in about 6 weeks. I mean, that just doesn't happen in a big company. It just can't happen in a big company. So I think speed is very important. For me, living in Las Vegas, wearing shorts to the office is kind of cool. That's one of the advantages, I think, for being a little guy.
I'm just happy you wear shorts. So I guess I'm going to flip it around to the other way. What do you guys miss from being, aside from the money, aside from the expense account, what do you miss about being at the larger companies, and what do you wish you still had? And we'll go back the other way.
An administrative assistant would be kind of cool. I mean, pretty much it's like, where's my coffee? Oh, it's down the hall. You got to go get your own coffee. No, I mean, lack of money, lack of resources, lack of people, that's always a challenge for a little company. But I think what I found is that when you're small and you don't have a lot of funds, you become very creative in how to get things done. And you leverage your resources much better than when you're a big company. I mean, when you're a big company, they always want to solve the problem by throwing more money at it or throwing more people at it. We don't have that luxury as being a little guy. So we have to be very creative, we have to be very fast. I can pick up the phone and call some of my former colleagues if I've got an issue or I'm stuck on something. These guys, I mean, I think because we all come from that background and we all tend to work together, we'll bounce some ideas off of each other and we'll find a solution. And even though these guys may be, I mean, Joshi and I, we've competed against each other, but we've also partnered up on things. So I think that's one of the advantages of being, one of the advantages of being one of the little guys, but that lack of money, that one's a tough one to overcome.
Yeah, I think anybody who worked in a big company and controlled a sizable budget can relate to that. When you don't have the resources available. I mean, before that, you come up with an idea, we'll basically take a small group of people and say, okay, you work on it, and then come back and report. And so essentially, you can find resources to work on ideas that you want. Whereas the small thing is, you just had, in a small company, you just have to be creative. One thing I would add on top of being creative, though, is also you learn how to prioritize things much, much better. Because in a big company, when you actually have the access to some money, you can become inefficient yourself. When the same problems that what we are talking about, what happens to the big company, you could also become part of the problem because you're not worried about having a couple guys sitting around. Whereas in a small company, couple guys sitting around, you can't really have that luxury. So you learn how to prioritize much better and be able to deliver much faster. And I think those are the big benefits of being in a small company.
I don't miss anything, to be honest. For a large company, I sort of decided that unless I had to, I'm going to always, from here on in my career, be an entrepreneur and have my own business, as I say, unless I really have to. But I think, something I probably do miss, I think just the level of intellect that you have and the access to intellect that you have in a large organisation. Hallway conversations by the water fountain and all that sort of stuff. You get that obviously in a small company, but it's just you just don't have the resources and the access to other people. But as everybody's touched on, obviously financial resources are a big part of a large organisation that we don't have in a small organisation. So, again, I agree with everything that's been said in terms of prioritisation and being efficient in the way that you run the business. It's definitely, when it's your own money or investors' money, and you've got limited resources and you've got numbers to hit and all that sort of good stuff, you definitely look at things a lot differently. You can't hide under the sort of large corporate veil because the buck stops with you. So you definitely learn how to operate a lot more efficiently and really utilise those resources to the full effect.
I will add just one more thing. I mean, first of all, in terms of the size of the company, I don't feel that we're limited on resources because, like everyone before me said, I completely agree. Priority, first of all. If you prioritize correctly, you actually find that efficiency beats size. And even if I had unlimited resources now, I don't see myself growing the company tenfold. I'd probably maximum double the manpower because I want to keep that efficiency. I think it keeps the company smarter in many ways. The one thing that I do feel, coming back to financial resources, except for worrying in the morning and looking at the bank account 2 times a day, the big downside is that it's harder to seize on opportunities and it's harder to sometimes recognize opportunities because you can't just make that wager of, hey, you know what, I'm going to test this country through this channel because I just met a great guy that can run the campaigns for me and he says that it's a great opportunity. Not necessarily would I have a large enough budget to make a test that's worthwhile. And that way I feel that many times we are missing opportunities because we have to be very ROI focused. We have to be very focused on the channels, on the platforms, and on the countries that we target.
Well, that actually brings up kind of a question I have, and that's how big do you guys want to be? I mean, when I first started in a very small organization, we grew the company 30%, but that was just because I gained weight. So what size do you guys want to be?
So like I said, I mean, we're 11 people today, and I feel that I'm very proud of our speed and how fast we roll out games. We have a weekly rollout of games. These games are not reskins, so basically every week we have a brand new game coming out with a brand new game model, with a brand new art package. And I feel that we kind of nailed that part of like the pipeline. We have very quick development. We've been focusing on stuff like meta games, and I think we're very fast on that side. So I don't see ourselves growing in terms of like development or studio by a lot. I would love to have another developer. I would love to have 1, 2 more art guys, but that's basically On the marketing side, I would love to have more marketing personnel because me as a CEO, I take most of the marketing part of things, and I think that is not the best utilization of my skill set and of my time. But I think that there is, on a culture side, I really believe in the small company culture as a way to kind of beat the big guys in this market, because no matter how big I am, I'm not going to be as big as the Playticas or the Zyngas, and I don't want to be. I want to approach it from a different angle. I think a small team is actually a better way to do that.
Yeah, we're at about 38 people currently, and we've had some significant growth, in particular over the last 2 years. It's our objective to keep growing the business, although we want to do it organically. We're not going out raising money. We're trying to build the business through cash flow. So as opportunities come to the fore that make commercial sense, we build the business based on that. That's sort of always the way that we've operated. So, how big really depends on what these opportunities are, and how we can capitalise on those opportunities. But yeah, we're certainly always looking for growth, as I say, where it makes commercial sense. And we've sort of carved out a few niche segments in both the real money gaming and in the social space that have been proven to be good moves and have allowed us to continue to grow. So we're going to continue along that path.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what the end goal would be, because as a small company, I think we are just focused on what we want to be within the next year or the next 18 months. Because I think, the planning for 5 years and like that, I think those are luxuries for some of the bigger companies to make a 5-year plan. As a small company, we are kind of looking and say, what is our next 12 months to 18 months plan? And so I mean, I guess ultimately, I don't know how big 2x2 will become, but I think if you're looking at the 12 to 18 months, it's kind of what Yair and Ken said. It's be able to reach a point where a person doesn't have to wear too many hats. I think as a small company, you will end up wearing multiple hats, but you just want to make sure the same person doesn't have to wear all the hats. And I think considering we work in the manufacturing, the land-based manufacturers, as well as the real money online, as well as the social side, I think we probably would want to get into where we can separate the teams a little bit that can focus and create unique stuff for that particular segment. I think that's probably would be the goal in the short term.
And we're in a bit of a unique situation. We actually have fewer people on staff today than we did like 2 years ago. And when we first set up the company, I think we did it based on this very select group of individuals that we were able to pull together as a team. But if I had to do it over again, would I go about that same path? I'm not sure I would. What we've managed to do is we've managed to keep our overhead relatively stable, and we flexed frankly using contractors that work for us as needed. Fortunately, we've got fantastic guys that have done just stellar work. Now, if we get to a point and we take on a new customer, I'm not sure which, I think maybe it was Kent was talking about, that it's sort of opportunity based, right? We're not going to staff up just on the if come that, yeah, maybe someday we'll get more business. That's just not the way it works when, frankly, it's your own money. So if there's an opportunity out there, and frankly, we're talking to a few folks about the future, and when we can see that sort of matching up of that opportunity and the risk and the ability to perform, I think maybe one of the biggest challenges for guys like us is sometimes you actually have to say no. Sometimes you actually have to, somebody presents you with an opportunity, and the hardest thing in the world is to say no. Because every opportunity when you're a little guy sounds good. But sometimes you have to say, you know what? If I take this on, I'm going to mess up the guys that I've already committed to. And so I'm really careful about that. I really look at it and say, can I take this on? And if I can, I cannot hurt the guys that have already committed to me. You know, growth is great, future opportunities are great, but you know what? You got to take care of the guys who got you to where you are. So that's one of the things I really look at. And so when I'm talking to these future guys, I need to understand what is their level of commitment. And because when I commit to something, I'm going to commit 100%. I'm not going to, you know, oh yeah, we'll do it, and, you know, promise in a handshake, and hopefully someday we'll be able to perform. That's just not going to happen. So if I know that an opportunity is right, and I can flex using contractors to start, and we can kind of build that relationship and see how it goes, and if it's looking good, you know, a lot of the guys that I'm working with on contract are saying, when you're ready, you know, we'll be on full time. But they're happy to work as a contractor because it's, you know, it's good work for them. So it really is opportunity based, and it's one of those cases where if that right opportunity is there, we're going to grow, and we'll let that opportunity dictate for us how big we'll get.
I actually want to, I'm going to jump to Yair on this because I had the opportunity to visit Yair's shop, and I learned very quickly that if anyone can manage a burn rate, it's Yair. He keeps an eye on his cash flow. You know, obviously we consult at Eilers and Krejcik with a lot of large companies, and I know that you're able to recruit a lot of talent in a large company by having catered breakfasts, lunch, and dinners, and having, you know, gyms and all those sort of things. How do you guys manage to attract and retain talent, being small players? So I'll start with you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, first of all, you're absolutely right. I mean, cash flow and burn rate is probably the first thing that, as a startup, even if you are in growth stage and you're hyper growing even, you need to keep your burn rate low, because that really changes the economics of everything that you're doing, and that enables you to kind of reach that point where you want to be faster, and also sustain any, you know, harder times. Getting talent is indeed very hard, because one of the things that we dictated, me and my co-founders, is that we're not going to bring mercenaries that are going to cost us a lot just because they're big names. We want people that are here, that are dedicated to the mission, and that means that, first of all, it's very important that the key employees have options, equity, whatever it is, and have a substantial amount, and that way they all work for a lower salary, and that means that everyone is committed completely, and they're not here for the salary, they're here for the long haul. Second thing is to find people that fit the DNA. A lot of people that come into the office and they sense that the atmosphere is very different from other companies and even other startups, will understand that their options for growth in this company are huge, and that the atmosphere is great, and that they will have a great opportunity once the company becomes bigger. And it seems that it attracts, for us at least, the right kind of people and the right kind of talent, and that's exactly what has enabled us to keep a very low burn rate and still kind of be able to attract amazing people. And I'm very proud of my team, so that's part of it.
We're based in Reno, so up until really the last 12 months, when we first started the company, which was about 4 years ago, there wasn't that much competition in Reno for resources. So that made it a little bit easier. You know, I'm sure in places like San Francisco, it'd be where it's a lot more competitive, be a lot more different story. But we do a few things. We recruit a lot out of the local university. We get a lot of undergraduates in to our company on the programming side, on the maths side. We get junior artists into the company, but we try and sort of speckle our resources with some people with some experience, but we're definitely more focused on bringing younger people through the organisation, people who want to learn and grow with the organisation. Secondly, I think we've built a very good culture whereby it's a fun place to work. We've still very much got a get it done startup mentality in our company, and a lot of the employees that we attract and a lot of the employees that we want are more interested in that type of environment rather than a large corporate environment. So, you know, we sort of battle for the same resources as IGT, for example, who have got a huge presence in Reno. But yeah, so it's those people who are looking for something a little bit different, a smaller shop, a more innovative shop. We do a couple of other things. We do flexible work hours on the programming side. So we have about half our programmers work 4 days a week. They're supposed to do a minimum of 10 hours to make up for that other day. But and that's things like that really go a long way. Things that you can do as a smaller organisation that, again, doesn't get caught up in the bureaucracy like we were sort of talking about before with a larger organisation. But I think cultural fit, from our perspective, is probably the most essential ingredient for recruiting the right people.
We kind of took a little bit of a unique track in the sense is we looked at it before, and as a small company, we basically said, in order to keep our costs low, what is the best way to kind of divide and have a division of labor, so to say. And so we found that, you know, programming resources and the QA resources are a lot available in India at a much cheaper cost than what we can find it here. But the design part and the graphics and, you know, the creativity part is a lot here. And so we've kind of divided our company here. Is we have our design, creativity, and, you know, all the art stuff is in Chicago, where we're based in Chicago, and we have programming and QA teams in India, which is where now we are able to, you know, manage our costs low, at the same time be able to kind of, you know, keep our workload proper. But on top of that, you know, I agree with what both of them said. It's making sure that the people you are working with are believing the same thing, and they are trying to build the same stuff. And occasionally you're going to have people, you know, you're going to have to let people go, or you basically find out, you know what, they may be good for when you are, you know, 10% team, but then when you end up becoming a 25% team, maybe they are not the right people, and you kind of have to do that. And I think we've been, you know, fortunate enough to be able to manage that along the way. And so, you know, we've been growing slowly, and at the same time are able to accomplish new stuff. But having a right culture and having people, you know, wanting to work together is very important.
Let me kind of switch it up on you, Jim, just so we can get a few more questions in. As a small shop, can you afford to be innovative because you have to be, you know, aware of your cash flow, or can you not afford to not be innovative? I mean, it's just like
I'm not sure how to answer that question. I think obviously innovation is a key, I think, component of all of our businesses. We have to be innovative. I think we have to be faster than the other guys, and we sort of touched on that a little bit previously. You know, I'm sure these guys probably feel the same way, but, you know, it's that whole philosophy of fail fast, right? So what we want to do is, if we come up with a new game, a new concept, you know, we might run it by the customer, get some of their feedback. If they don't like it, you know, it's automatically thrown in the trash, and we're on to the next concept. Or if the math isn't quite right, you know, we're basically hammering on the mathematician. All right, let's tweak this, let's tweak that. So yes, we have to be innovative, but I think we have to be smarter, faster, and you know, like I said, failing fast is so important. You can't look at the big companies, especially on the land-based gaming side. From game concept, right? Somebody's crazy idea for a game, to when it hits the market, to when you're actually getting feedback on how the game's performing, could be 2 years, easily, through all the approval processes, all the testing that goes on. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And of course, in the social space, you can be much faster than that. And I think that's one of the advantages of being in the social space, is you can experiment, you can try new ideas, you can throw them out there, you can see how players react to it. It's not a perfect environment, but you know what? It's better than testing on a casino floor.
So let me stick with you for a little bit, Jim. When you're one of the few companies that do B2C, or B2B rather, in both social and in real money gaming, you have customers in both. are they looking towards Bluhare as providing that deep casino content because you obviously have the depth of experience there, or are they looking for you to do the kind of oddball innovations that they're not getting internally from their own development teams?
I think that's a really good question. I think it depends on the customer. I think there are some of our customers that do look at our experience in the real money side. And one of the advantages of being in Las Vegas is that, I mean, literally I'm 5 minutes from a casino. So I'm constantly walking the floor, constantly playing slots to see what's new and what's working and what's exciting, and how can that potentially translate into the social side. And, you know, I try and share that knowledge with my social partners especially. It's cost me a lot of money to play these games, and unfortunately,
You're just not that lucky.
I'm not that lucky. And these games are not made for winners, so, but that's part of doing business.
Same question, Joshi.
Yeah, I think you know, we are, you know, somewhat in a slightly different area than what Bluhare is, in the sense that we are not much of a custom house. Even though we are a B2B company, we are not much of a custom house. We are primarily like an IP company. We come up with our own ideas, we come up with our own patterns, we come up with our own game mechanics, and then we develop our own games, and then we license the same games across different channels. So in a way, you can think of as like a independent studio who's creating their own IP, and we are fortunate enough that, you know, there are enough customers we have in all, you know, both in the land base as well as real money online as well as the social, who are willing to take a chance on our content. So in that sense, you know, we have to be constantly innovative, because that's the only reason people actually license content from us. But the flip side is, to answer can I afford to be, is you have to be very careful about what is the cost of innovation. I mean, in my previous company, when we were there, we had some industry changing innovations which required a chair. That chair itself cost $2,000, and had a innovation with Bose, which is, you know, and I'm sure Al can talk a lot about that, but anyway, collaboration with Bose. Well, as a small company, we can't do those type of innovation, even though the idea might be there, but we can't do those type of innovations. So it's what Jim said, you know, fail fast, but also pick and choose the type of innovations that you can actually deliver, and be able to convince your customers that they should take a chance on. I think that becomes quite important as when you're picking and choosing innovations.
So same with you, Kent. Is it your background in casino that you can provide that authentic casino experience, or are they looking to you for innovation? Or in your case, you actually introduce technology into the mix, where you have a technology platform?
Yeah, so we sort of tic-tacked, I think, as a company. So we started off 4 years ago. We were doing third-party content for the land-based manufacturers. Then when New Jersey came online, we shifted gears and sort of back to the Jack be nimble, Jack be quick sort of philosophy. But we then very quickly became a technology company, and we went and developed a remote gaming server. And that sort of got us into New Jersey, that got us into real money gaming, then that's got us into what I call B2B social. So we now provide that technology to most of the B2B, so the casino social sites in North America. But in doing that, you know, we developed what I think is best in class HTML5 RGS technology, and we've sort of gone full circle. We now port Konami content, Every content, Inspired content, and then multiple other smaller third parties onto our RGS, because the technology allows for distribution both into the real money gaming space and into the social space. And again, sort of what we were talking about before, a lot of these companies are still trying to develop an RGS because it's for them it's a significant tech play to do so. So a lot of those companies I mentioned, you know, came to the conclusion that it makes sense to do it with a company like us, that's already got the tech, already got the distribution. It's a lot faster time to market. We actually do all the integration. So yeah, so we've, rather than us where we started providing manufacturers with content, they're now actually providing us with content as one sort of stream of our business. We do our own content also, but the third party side for us has definitely been a huge growth factor in the last 12 months.
So Yair, I know that your company does quite a bit of innovation. These guys obviously have the depth of casino experience. I know for a fact that your casino mathematician has no experience because it was you. But did an amazing job in kind of attempting to create that casino experience. But what has been your experience in kind of dealing with the innovative side of it, and then also having to deal with the real casino side?
Well, first of all, I think that as a social casino, it's first of all very important to have the social casino side almost perfect. Players don't care if you're a small shop or a big shop, they're coming for the experience, and if your experience feels like it's not the real deal, they're not going to stay. However, I do see innovation as a B2C company as a core part of what we do. I think that mobile and a portfolio strategy actually gives you a great opportunity to test out innovation, fail fast. You can either do it through different apps. So basically, we started off with one core innovation, which the content was actually dynamic. We had an API with Instagram, and you can basically switch the content and have the same slot machine with pictures of your friends or with pictures of your kids or celebrities or whatever. And that innovation had great retention, for example, but on the monetization side, it was lacking. And we kind of moved away to other forms of innovation. And as long as we can keep good accounting, we call it innovation accounting, where we know very fast if that innovation actually moves us in the right direction, we can actually go towards the routes that players like in quite a fast way. And because we're building everything within a platform, then I foresee us having maybe 10 different apps on the market. Each one will be focused on a different innovation, where the underlying social casino, or the actual casino part, is actually across all of the apps. And that's how I still think that innovation is a must for a small company, because everyone has, or the big companies have, almost a perfect casino experience, and you need to have that, and you just need to have the innovation on top of that in order to succeed in the market.
All right. One more question before we see if there's any questions from the audience. With all of the big boys in the industry, both in the social side and the incumbents in the real money having kind of planted their flag and having done a lot of acquisition, if you were starting now, would you say that there's still room for the small guys in the business? Is there always going to be a niche? I mean, you look at a guy like Damon Guara with DGN, who became the mouse that roared just recently. Is that going to be ongoing? Will there always be room for the little guys? So we'll start with you, Jim.
Short answer, yes. I think there will always be room for guys like us. At least we all hope so.
At least one of you.
Yes, exactly right. I think innovation is the key. Guys like Damon have found a particular niche, and I think that's what's going to happen. And your strategy, your portfolio strategy, I think is the way it's going to go in the future. I think maybe where we, as the little guy, might fit in, when you look at some of the bigger companies, and I've seen this on the casino floor as well as in social, sometimes their games all tend to look the same. So sometimes having a small studio work with you to create, whether it's an entire app or a suite of games, you can give those players a different look, a different feel, a different experience that your team, their internal teams maybe can't provide. And even though a lot of the bigger guys have multiple studios in multiple countries, they generally have, a creative director. And let's face it, every game is going to be what the creative director wants. So for the guys that are willing to take a risk and basically are willing to say, let's give those players something a little bit different, let's go with a look and a feel and a play style, especially if they don't have the background in real money gaming. I think that's maybe where guys like us potentially could fit in. I think that's something that we could provide that as a service, hopefully for till the end of time.
Yeah, I think the the room for any innovation is always going to be there. I mean, you look at every other industry, even whether you look at the movie industry, yes, I mean, Avengers and Jurassic Parks can make billions of dollars business, but that still doesn't stop from Blair Witch Project or Cloverfield or something like that. It's a pretty small indie movies to come and become phenomenally successful and creating a new, a whole new era of type of games or movies. And I think so that's what is going to happen, and no matter what. And in fact, the consolidation on the big companies, you are seeing that on the social side as well as the real money side. The bigger the companies, they start buying other companies. What it ends up doing is creating more and more homogeneous market. And so therefore, it actually, the more, the acquisitions are happening, the more room starts opening up for the little guys around the way. And I think as long as that is continuing, I think, you should, if you have an idea, you should take a chance.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think, game life cycles in our space, in both the land-based space and I think in social, are getting shorter and shorter. There's a much higher demand today than there ever has been for more content, more quality content. So I think there's definitely still a place. If I was going to start again today, I might do things a little bit different, but I still think there's an opportunity there. I think it's a lot more difficult just to be a Me Too company now because there are a lot more content providers. So I think if you go in with a Me Too mentality, it'd be a lot more difficult. But if you can come up with a quality product and a certain volume of quality product, then I think there's definitely room for success. As I say, I think that innovation, obviously, we don't know what the next great game is that could turn things around, within the next 12 months. So obviously, if you come up with something that's extremely innovative, there's always an opportunity there.
Yeah, I think that, Damon, of course, and Old Vegas is a great example, but there were other companies that targeted niches and did it great. Merca, huge games. Actually, what I feel is that, first of all, CPIs are starting to plateau in some ways. And I think one of the reasons for that is that the market consolidation, what happened was that maybe 4 years ago, there were a lot more Me Too's, like a lot of companies, a lot of just game studios that said, hey, slot machines make a lot of money, let's just turn our business into slot machines. And a lot of these companies that didn't really have anything special to bring to the market have started to close down, or at least close down their acquisition budgets because the ROIs don't make sense anymore. And what we're starting to see, we're seeing it on Canvas very strongly. Canvas has been very good to us lately, with very low CPIs turning out to very high ROIs. But we're seeing the same trend starting in mobile. CPIs are starting to plateau, and actually what I feel is that hopefully like the ones that actually have a uniqueness to them and are not just another bulk of games will start springing out as the CPIs continue to plateau, and hopefully the ROIs will improve, bringing to that. So I do feel that if you have the right team, if you have the right idea or the right mentality, there is huge opportunity, and the market consolidation is probably going to continue that trend, hopefully.
As small shops, how are you guys able to keep up with the cadence of developing product at the same rate? Because the players tend to want to digest slots at a certain rate, no matter what size of company it comes from. So how are you guys able to kind of keep with that?
Well, for us, we generally provide the content for the games in sort of a raw format, and we work with our partners that actually do the technical porting, the porting side. So for us, it's more about game ideas, it's the mathematics, it's the art, it's the animations, it's the overall game themes. And fortunately, from a tech perspective, if you guys are good in Photoshop, you pretty much have got most of that nailed. And got good mathematicians that can work a spreadsheet. We're able to handle that very easily. So it doesn't really apply so much to me, probably more to these guys.
I think the important thing is to learn is what you are good at and what you are not good at, right? And I think as a small shop, you constantly have to keep evaluating, as I said, as your business is growing, keep focusing on what you are good at, and the things that you are not good at or not efficient at. Maybe you are good, but you are not efficient at. You start finding out other ways of handling it. And as what Jim said, we have we've figured out in some cases if the implementations and the technology is taking too much time, then we basically either handed off the technology to our partners and basically say, well, we can't handle this thing, you can handle it. Or as we said earlier, we found partners in India who are who are technology houses who can do those types of things. So I think the key part is, in order to keep the cadence up, you constantly have to keep looking at it and say, what are you good at? What is your USP? You keep that in control, and then whatever you are, stop becoming efficient at, you start farming it out or finding other people to do that job.
One thing that I found was, first of all, to keep the team very flexible, to think as a platform, not as a product. So basically, if you think as a platform, you tend to generalize ideas, and that makes it more flexible. For example, by building, we were building a lot of games and a lot of meta features, and at a certain point, we started trying out three-reel mechanicals, and it was quite successful, and players tend to loved it. It was very easy for us to roll out another application based on three-reel mechanicals, using and leveraging all the technology that we built. So in that flexibility, it actually makes it a lot easier to be faster. I mean, when we talk about needing to be efficient, I think in multitudes. So with a 10-person team, you need to roll out more than what the Zyngas or the Playticas roll out with hundreds of people. And that means that you need to be really in multitudes a lot more efficient. And I like to surprise my team with requests, and by that keep them flexible, and they always make the platform more and more flexible because they know I'm a little bit crazy, and every day I come up with a new idea, and if they don't keep that flexibility, they're gonna have me on their ass, sorry for asking them, hey, why can't we do this?
I can attest that you drive your team crazy. I've been out drinking with some of
that is my
some of
unique
your team
selling
members.
point.
How does the small player in the business manage to get the attention of the partners, the Facebooks of the world, the UA partners? I mean, I know, do you go through, Kent, do you use your charm? Joshi, do you use your Jedi mind tricks? What ways do you get the attention of these bigger partners?
We were lucky to get one investor who is quite well known and is inside all these companies. Except for that, I'd have to say it would have been a very hard challenge, of course, especially with Apple, which I believe probably treat everyone kind of that way. But that was the only thing that kind of helped, because, I mean, they only look, the way I feel is that Google are probably the best out of all three platforms in terms of like having that small developer mentality. But normally, I mean, you'd have to be either at an ad spend that's big enough or at an in-app revenue that's big enough for them to kind of contact you. And that's what happened with us. When we increased the ad spend, suddenly a new guy from Facebook called us up. Hey guys, I mean, this and that, and I'd like to help you.
So for you guys, is it your
Yeah. So I think to build on, I think that the important thing what you learn is just leveraging your network very efficiently. Go through your LinkedIn contacts or go through all the people that we know and using efficiently. Another thing that what we have done, and we continue to explore is working with other companies who are your size. And as Jim said, I mean, I think. We work with Bluhare, we work with Ruby 7, which is our partner, we work with LED Gaming, which is another of our companies. In some cases, we might be competing against each other. In other places, we are cooperating with each other. We kind of, the point is you kind of, need to leverage your network in order to, get your product out as many different places. And so sometimes, the co-opetition type of thing is, really works, and that's how you can get noticed.
Yeah, I think one thing we've done, we've been very conscious of building our brand, particularly within the B2B space. So we do press releases on anything that's worth releasing. We early on we did a lot of branding advertising within trade mags, etc., sitting on panels, to really build the brand and build reputation behind the brand. And I think that's gone a long way for us in terms of getting some of these larger customers. So yeah, that's been a big part of what we've done as a company.
Well, I think that's all we have time for. Please help me thank the panel for giving the information.